I think Bills fans are loving today, and the chill that was in Buffalo was not felt by the Bills fans or the Buffalo Bills. It was felt so much by the San Francisco 49ers, and that is where we start today. There's a lot to pinpoint on what has gone wrong with the San Francisco 49ers, but you know what last night was, Monty?
What?
Last night, in a game that I don't even think it's fair to make this declaration, but last night you just realized it's not our year. It's not going to be our year. And it was magnified in the Christian McCaffrey injury that we expect will likely cost him the rest of the season. Kyle Shanahan talked about it after the game. We'll hear from him in a second. But in terms of what last night was, it wasn't how they lost. It wasn't who they lost to. It's the accumulation of everything dating back to the offseason and where the San Francisco 49ers find themselves right now, that this season is not the season they wanted after losing a Super Bowl in overtime.
Yeah, since the offseason, as you just mentioned, there's been a lot of adversity that the San Francisco 49ers have had to go through. And last night, it was just really the cherry on top, because it wasn't the first time that maybe you thought, ooh, this might not be the Niners' year. This wasn't the first time. It just was the last of it, where it was like, yep, okay, this is not the year for the 49ers, unfortunately. But better now than losing in the playoffs? I don't know. Trying to give them a silver lining, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they think that. And they are the San Francisco 49ers fans. They think that if this team, and I think that they felt that up until last night, they felt that if this team could sneak into the playoffs, either as a division winner because the NFC West is still up for grabs, if they could get in as a division winner or if they could get in as a wild card, that everything would take care of themselves and they would go back to playing playoff football. And Monty, I've never felt that with San Francisco. I've never felt it the entire season. Name me a team that has distractions throughout the entire offseason that ends up using those for good and it pays off during the season.
I don't have one for you.
Yeah,
nope.
Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen.
Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams, they're holdouts. Then we enter the season, and Christian McCaffrey's injury history is now brought into play. And that was at the forefront of last night. He misses half of the season, and 49ers fans are telling everybody, wait till McCaffrey gets back. Then we are going to be rolling. Well, in the meantime, you've lost Brandon Ayuk. You just signed to that contract. Poor Ricky Pearsall ends up getting shot in the offseason. There's another point that's to no fault of his own. But when Pearsall is now shot, Brandon Ayuk shows up to practice before he ends up blowing out his knee and isn't wearing the same sort of practice shorts that the other team has. Kyle Shanahan makes him change into shorts. The reason why I'm intermingling all these things is at all these points you thought, now's the time. This is when it turns around. This is the 49ers. Oh, destroying the Jets on week 1, awesome. The next week they lose to the Vikings. The next week they lose to the Rams. Guess what? Handle the Patriots with ease. Next week, blow a lead, lose at home to the Cardinals. This is not the same 49ers team as a year ago. But week after week, after setback after setback, after controversy, they still tried to tell us that this team was different, that this team would turn it around because they are defending NFC champions and, again, lost the Super Bowl in overtime to the Kansas City Chiefs. And that is the definition of Super Bowl hangover. It's one of the worst hangovers that we have seen. And last night put a period to the sentence of the San Francisco 49ers are set to repeat. They are not. It is done. It is over, and last night showed it.
You can't really blame, though, 49ers fans for holding on to hope this entire time. I would have, too, especially with the way their division looks. Like, you and I saw all of these problems early on because that's not our team. But if that's my team, I'm going to hold on to hope based on not just last year, but the last couple of years and how they've come together. But in reality, you see other teams this year who have actually gone through their own adversity, like the Bills, like the Lions, and they continue to get past it. The 49ers have not gotten past anything. They just kind of have put everything to the side every time it happens. And like the Christian McCaffrey situation, we were all bamboozled, every single one of us, because that didn't just happen. They just told us very last minute about it. And so, again, I don't blame Rich Davis, our coworker, for holding on to hope for that team. But the hope had been gone. Every week there was less and less hope. And then yesterday was just the final.
Our hallways are littered with 49ers fans. It's not just Rich Davis.
No, it's just the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah,
right now.
I live next to a 49er fan 2 houses down.
Yep.
That they have hopes that this is the season. You want to know why they had hopes? Because they knew that this was it. If it's not this year, it's over. And that was the thing with San Francisco, to me, that was so daunting. And when you look at this season, it's everything has to be in the season. You want to know why? Because you got to pay Brock Purdy.
Mm-hmm.
This is the last season that you don't have to pay your quarterback and make that decision. At some point, you're going to have to make a decision on Christian McCaffrey. And guess what? Christian McCaffrey, before his run in San Francisco, was thought to be an injury-prone running back. His talent was unquestionable, but it was whether he could stay on the football field. During his time in San Francisco, up to that point, basically flawless. He was on the football field. But guess what? That reality sets in. And that was a reality that I don't think people were willing to look at as a real thing, because guess what? Let's just run it back. Let's just run it back. They'll do it again. Just run it back, get to the Super Bowl again, and this time you'll win it. It's not that easy. Trent Williams is another year older. Now you've paid Brandon Ayuk. Now you're wondering what's going to happen with Deebo Samuel, who has also had his injury history. Nick Bosa is hurt. Now we find out Fred Warner's been playing on a fractured ankle or whatever for the last 10 weeks. Like, these are all the things that add up. It's the number of games that you play. It's the expectations that you have. But, Monty, your point is 100% correct. 49er fans did not want to face this reality because this is all that they had. This is it. There is no next year. Not with paying Brock Purdy, not without Christian McCaffrey coming off of a significant knee injury, let alone him dealing with his Achilles problems in the past. It is all over. And now you have to figure out a way to regroup in a completely different way. I think that there's some frustrations that you see with Kyle Shanahan. I said we're going to hear from him. We will. But that's why the 49ers fans, last night was it. And I think it's a harsh reality for them today.
And it was a rough way to go out because it was unbelievable. They just couldn't get anything going. And in the snow where it was like, oh, you just get one quick step over your defender, you're going to take off. As we saw literally James Cook do every single time he touched the ball. But nobody on the 49ers could get anything going. It really was, period. Our season is done. And to add to everything you just said, not only do they have all of these problems going on, literally, we just listed, you did, a list of the things that have been happening since the offseason. You have all these other teams that are getting better and better.
Sure.
Like, not you. It's not that we just have to hold on. No, what you're holding on to is the past, because there's other teams that are getting better around you now. So you have to get better, but now you have all these questions about your contract, Brock Purdy and all that. There's no way you're going to be able to turn this around to compete in the next couple of years. It doesn't seem that way.
This was Kyle Shanahan talking about the team's loss last night to the Buffalo Bills and them holding on to the football or lack thereof.
You know, we got back in it with 28-10, but then we had 2 more turnovers after that, and got none. So playing in those conditions, us having 3, them having 0, the way they ran the ball made it real tough.
Listen, losing in Buffalo is a commonplace for the rest of the National Football League. Losing in those conditions, it happens. But the Christian McCaffrey injury is the big one to me. And now there's even more on the shoulders of Brock Purdy. And if you were a 49ers fan coming into the season and you were to say, okay, you're going to try to run it back, but here's the deal. You're not going to have Christian McCaffrey for a majority of it. You're going to lose Brandon Ayuk for most of it. And guess what? During the middle of the season and as you enter your stretch run, Trent Williams is not going to be available. And that's exactly where the 49ers are right now. None of those would be reasons for you to think that the 49ers could run it back again.
And maybe we were all delusional, too. I'm adding myself to the fan base that once Christian McCaffrey was back, he was going to just be back to normal, which is delusional of me to even think that, right? And especially off of what he just went through, to go and play in the snow like that. Mm-hmm. And he did look good for what? 3-4 drives.
Yeah, yes.
It actually did look good for him. And you were like, okay, because he seemed like he had a slow start, understandably so. But it's like, did they were desperate, shove him back into a situation when they should have eased him back in. But as we have been talking, the Niners had no other choice because it's now or never. So even if Christian McCaffrey was not 100% ready, they had no other choice, and it backfired in the worst possible way.
I don't know if it would have prevented it or not, but I feel like they should have. I mean, Jordan Mason and Isaac Orendo, you saw last night, end up getting into the end zone. They had filled in capably at times for him, and I felt that there should have been more of the passing of the torch that way, but Kyle Shanahan said full go. We're going with McCaffrey as our guy and said, why would there be any limitations? We're giving him the full workload. And now here they are with another significant injury, which, again, was a part of his past.
He should have asked you.
Yeah.
Because you would have told them, well, the age, the injury, Kyle, all of these things. He should have asked you.
I just felt that there was no guarantee. Not that Christian McCaffrey would look a certain way, but that things would be the same as they were for the 49ers if Christian McCaffrey came back. And he hadn't been the same back, but then you're like, okay, is it because you don't have Ayuk? Is it because you don't have Trent Williams? What's the deal? And now the injury history ends up popping up. But I was not convinced that Christian McCaffrey was going to be the fix-all. Here's 49ers quarterback Brock Purdy on what now sits ahead of them for the rest of the season at 5-7.
Every game's got to be must-win for us. We don't have any room, clearly, if we want to make the playoffs and get ahead and do the thing that we've set out to do before the season, man. Every win's got to be a must-win, and so that's plain as day, and we all know that. So, like I said, we all just got to be accountable and grow from it, and we don't have a lot of room for error right now. We got to go.
We forgot to even mention Brock Purdy's shoulder injury.
Sure.
That he's dealing with.
Yes.
Like
the Brandon Allen game.
Yeah. Right. So, again, I guess hold on to hope, but why?
There's a mathematical way that they could win the division.
Yes.
There is. You have 3 home games of your final 5 left. Bears, Rams, and Lions. Is it a given that they win all 3 of those? Heck no.
Absolutely not.
Is there a given that they win 2 of those 3? No. Not maybe at the beginning of the season when we looked at this as it was playing out, but I don't think so. You also end the year at Arizona, a team that beat you earlier in the season. Arizona had troubles with penalties and getting into the end zone yesterday against Minnesota, but by all accounts, they probably should have won the game against Minnesota. Like Arizona, for whatever they are legit in who they are. 6-6, they're going to give you a dogfight. There's no way San Francisco runs the table after this. And even if they did, Monty, the point remains this. When the 49ers came into this season, they weren't competing with the Cardinals. They weren't competing with the Rams. They weren't competing with the Seahawks. They were competing with the Eagles. They were competing with the Lions. They were competing with the Packers, the top of the NFC. And even if somehow miraculously you figure out a way to maneuver a couple of wins and you get into the playoffs, you aren't at the level of those other teams.
Yeah.
And that's the difference to me with San Francisco and why it's now over.
And now I'm sure teams that are playing the Rams to finish the season, or the 49ers, I'm looking at their division. Any team playing the 49ers is not looking at them with any sort of fear. They don't see them as a threat
you're right.
at all. So that's not going for them either.
It's what a world we live in.
Yeah.
Every year, aren't there teams that are in and out of the playoffs, and you try to guess, but guess what? When you saw the NFC this year, you said, well, San Francisco will be there, right?
Not only did I say San Francisco will be there, I said the Bills wouldn't.
Yeah, there you go. Live and learn, Monty Bolaños. You live and learn.